Right. Shalom, shalom, everyone. Peace and blessings. This is your girl Sophia of the AmaruKhan Band of Indians, and we're here with a video announcing, decreeing, declaring. I'm here in my Amonute, with my Amonute hat on, decreeing and declaring and informing that we will be beginning a fast on August the 2nd. That is the cross-quarter holiday. This is going to be a particularly long fast, but it is really, really critical. We're at a very critical stage in whatever is going on this planet as far as our evolution is concerned. And we have been called, we have been summoned, we have been requested to do a Ruth fast. This is, of course, these things are not me. I just put the word out there. I just let people know what's going on. The vibration of the women is what is going to cause things to change one way or another on this planet. And we are all responsible for our own vibration. And just by taking over or taking back our own vibrations, we are creating a wave that has never seen before. I call it a purple wave because it's not about the red or the blue. It's about the daughter, the purple. And so we are going to go through some information here about Ruth. We're going to tie it all together, just grab you a drink. It's going to be a long one. I guarantee you it's going to be a long one. So first and foremost, I call this fast the Let Me Find Favor in Your Sight fast. And that is taken from directly from Ruth's own mouth in this scripture. So before we start with the scripture, I'm going to read a story about her. I would love to give you all the website, but after I read the website earlier, they scrubbed it, which is fabulous. Fabulous. I love when they scrub the website as soon as we start looking and talking about it. So I had to go jump into the Wayback Machine in order to find it. God bless all the people who capture these websites on the Wayback Machine. It's quite necessary. So they must have known. So they known that we were coming, and they took it down. Anyway, so I'm just gonna read it to you since I can't show you the website, which typically I would show the website, but like I said, they took it down. So this is the story of Ruth, and it's a short article from a longer book, which is called Big Theme Little Book by this lady. I won't even say her name. I'm sure she's responsible for taking the article down. So, in different Bibles, the book of Ruth is put in different places. In Christian Bibles, it is split between Judges and Samuel along the historical books. In the Hebrew Bible, it's an entirely different place in the third section known as writings. It does not seem to fit neatly into the sequence of biblical books. If this suggests that the book of Ruth is an anomaly, I propose to show that, on the contrary, its thematic connections with the rest of the Bible are much stronger than we generally perceive. On its face, the book of Ruth is a short, self-contained story unconnected to the narrative sequence from Genesis through Kings. The tale begins not in Israel or in Judah, but in Moab, where the Israelite Naomi and her husband Elimelech and her two sons Mahlon and Chalon went during a famine in Judah. Then her husband died, and her sons married a Moabite woman named Ruth and Orpah. Orpah, like Oprah? Anyway, when the story begins, Naomi's sons have just died. Thrice bereaved of any provider, Naomi decides to return to Judah, having heard that the Lord had given food to her people in Bethlehem. She urges Ruth and Orpah to remain in Moab with their paternal families, not just their paternal families. Real specific what she says. Orpah agrees, but Ruth refuses with the resounding words, "Wherever you go, I will go. Wherever you lodge, I will lodge. Your people shall be my people, and your God my God. Where you die, I will die. There I will be buried. And thus more may the Lord do to me, if anything but death part me from you. That's 1 verses 16 to 17. Together they journey to Naomi's former home in Bethlehem. But once there, they have to provide for themselves. Since it's time for the barley harvest, which is Shavuot, which is basically during this time, July and August. This is the barley harvest season, okay? So we're talking about something that's now, which is why this fast is going to start on the cross-quarter holiday, okay? Ruth decides to glean from a field. Although she doesn't know it, the field she chooses belongs to a wealthy kinsman of Elimelech named Boaz. When Boaz visits the field and hears of Ruth's loyalty to his kin Naomi, he instructs the workers to allow her to glean unmolested and even to leave additional grain in her path. Meanwhile, in seeking to find a husband for Ruth, Naomi advises her to go to the threshing floor on the night Boaz winnows barley, to wash and prepare herself and uncover Boaz's feet and lie next to them while he sleeps. This Ruth does. When Boaz awakes, startled to find Ruth at his feet, she asks him to spread his robe over her, a symbolic act of espousal because Boaz is a redeeming kinsman. That is, one who has a right to redeem Elimelech's property and the same time to marry his son's widow so as to perpetuate the name of the deceased upon his estate. That's Ruth 4 and 5. Boaz, impressed that Ruth has chosen him, an older man out of family loyalty, agrees with enthusiasm to have her, so long as the one man in Bethlehem who is closer redeeming kinsman does not want Ruth for himself. The matter is soon settled. When Boaz and the eligible kinsman meet at the city gate, the other man says to Boaz, "You take over my right of redemption, for I am unable to exercise it." And as was the custom in Israel, Boaz takes off his sandal to validate the transaction of his becoming redeemer and says to the witnesses, "Today I am acquiring from Naomi all that belonged to Elimelech and to Chilon and Mahlon his sons. I am also acquiring Ruth the Moabite, the wife of Mahlon, as my wife, so as to perpetuate Mahlon's name upon his estate, that his name may not disappear from among his kinsmen." So they were married and had a son, Obed, who was the father of Jesse and the father of David. The book of Ruth is read in the synagogue in the festival of Shavuot, which commemorates the giving of the Torah. The 5 books of Moses alerts us to the book's possible connections with the Torah, but alas, both the usual explanation that Shavuot celebrates the spring grain harvest, which forms this spring grain harvest, we're really about to have the grain harvest in now, which forms the setting of the book, and various lesser known explanations that David had a great grandson of Ruth died on Shavuot, or that Ruth's loyalty to Naomi symbolizes Israel's loyalty to the Torah, touch only upon superficial connections or clearly midrashic efforts to forge a connection. I propose a much more fundamental and far-reaching link between Ruth and the Torah, indeed with the entire Bible, a link that goes to the very heart of the overarching theme of the Bible, the theme that unites the books from Genesis through Kings and informs much of the prophets and writings is the land and the people. God's covenant with Abraham lies at its heart. God says to Abraham, "Raise your eyes and look out from where you are, to the north and south, to the east and west, for I give all the land that you see to you and your offspring forever. I will make your offspring as the dust of the earth, so that if one can count the dust of the earth, then your offspring too can be counted." The early chapters of Genesis are a prologue to this covenant, describing the creation of all the land in the world and of all its peoples, until the narrative focuses on one particular family, Abraham's. The rest of Genesis concentrates on the growth of his family, the people, as they move from Haran to Canaan to Negev to Egypt to Hebron to Dan to Beersheba. Now, before I go on, that term, the people, has come up a lot. If you remember my video on what was that video about? The native. Oh, it was the video that was about. Hold on, come on, brain. The Olympic spirits. I talked about the people, the native people. They were called. Oh Lord, I got a brain freeze. Y'all, I'm trying to remember, and it's not working. Memax, the Memax and the Beothuks, right? Okay, Memax and Beothuks. That term meant the people. Like, anyway, that's just a aside. By the end of Genesis, the extensive family has settled in Egypt. Abraham's family is first called a people in Exodus. A new king arose over Egypt. Look, he said, and he said, look, the Israelite people are too numerous for us. The narrative from Exodus to Deuteronomy relates to the return of this people from Egypt to the land they have been promised. The section known in Jewish tradition as the former prophets, Joshua, Judges, Samuel, and Kings, details the vicissitudes of the people in the promised land until, at the end of Kings, the Babylonian king Nebuchadnezzar conquers the territory of Judah and sends its people into exile. Ezra, Nehemiah recount the people's return to the land and restoration of the community in it. Okay. The book of Ruth, too, is about exile and return, land and people. Like Abraham and like the family of Jacob, the family of Elimelech was forced by famine to leave its home in the land of Israel and to preserve itself in a foreign land. When the famine abates, Naomi returns to Bethlehem. Far from being a causal move, casual, I think is what she means. The importance of returning is emphasized in chapter 1 by the repetition of the root shuv or return 12 times as Naomi bids her daughters-in-law to return to their families in Moab as she returns to Judah with Ruth. Technically, Ruth cannot return to Bethlehem since the Moabite woman has never been there. Her return is really Naomi's return. Ruth is known in Bethlehem as the one who returned with Naomi. Land plays a large role in the book of Ruth. First, Ruth establishes a physical connection with her newly adopted land as she gleans in Boaz's field. Second, and most complicated, Naomi offers for sale or redemption a parcel of land that once belonged to her husband Elimelech. This transaction raises legal questions, but more importantly, the proper inheritance of land has special significance in the Bible. Land was not to be alienated from its original owner or from his descendants. This principle lies behind many of the Bible's laws and narratives, from the division of property between Lot and Abraham, when Lot chooses the plain of the Jordan River and Abraham remains in the land of Canaan, to the claims of the daughters of Zeloshad, who gained the right to inherit the land when their father died without sons. That's in number 27. To the laws of the Jubilee years when the land returns to its original owner. That's in Leviticus 25. And the judgment that falls on King Ahab and Queen Jezebel for having Naboth killed so that he could get his vineyard. We know that story very well. Central to the book of Ruth is the institution of Goel, the Redeemer, whose duty, according to Leviticus 25 and 25, 7, is to buy back any land sold by his kinsmen out of economic necessity. Seen against this background, the references to land in the book of Ruth not only provide the setting for pastoral romance, they also link the story to the covenant theme of land, whether private or national. However, the family and the people part of the covenant theme is more prominent than the land part of the book of Ruth. At first, it would seem that ties that bind Naomi, Ruth, and Orpah after the deaths of their husband do not make them a family in any customary sense. They have no legal obligation to one another and can offer each other no mutual protection or support. More to the point, none of them seems to be able to restore the family by producing an heir. It is therefore entirely appropriate that Orpah accedes to Naomi's suggestion that she remain in Moab with her paternal family. Ruth's response is extraordinary, for she is under no obligation to care for Naomi, just as Naomi, with her own extraordinary response, is under no obligation to provide for Ruth. Ruth's poetic words, "Wherever you go, I will go, wherever you lodge, I will lodge," are rightly famous, both for their beauty of expression and for their sentiment. "Your people shall be my people, and your God my God," is a radical thought because it signals that Ruth is changing her identity in a world where that was almost inconceivable. The ancient world had no mechanism for religious conversion or change of citizenship. The very notion was unthinkable. Religion and peoplehood defined one's ethnic identity, and this could no more be changed than the color of one's skin. A Moabite was always a Moabite, wherever he or she lived. And indeed, Ruth is referred throughout the story as the Moabitess. But from Ruth's point of view, she is becoming an Israelite. She is joining herself to Naomi, not only on the private family level, but also on the national peoplehood level. In this coming together of family and peoplehood, we are again reminded of the stories of the patriarchs, in which the family represents the people. In patriarchal stories, the main concern of the establishment was the establishment of the family line, the quest for an heir whom God will designate as the one through whom the people of Israel will be born. The amazing thing about these accounts is that although lineage is defined through males, it is the women who take responsibility for the continuity of the family and the guardianship of the lineage. It is the women, often despite their husbands, who ensure the birth of the next generation and who direct the proper line of inheritance. Sarah, at first barren, provides a surrogate mother, Hagar, for Abraham, and later, when she bears her own son, Isaac, sees to it, with God's approval, that he, not Ishmael, is the designated heir. Isaac's wife, Rebekah, also guides the line of descent away from Esau and towards Jacob, as God had wanted. In the stories of Jacob's wives, Leah and Rachel, the issue is no longer which son will be the heir, for they are all children of Israel. Rather, the emphasis is on the accumulation of progeny. Rachel, initially barren, is jealous of Leah's ability to bear children, so she supplies her maidservant Bilhah to Jacob for this purpose, as Sarah had done for Abraham. Leah, during a hiatus in childbearing, does the same by giving her maidservant Zilpah to Jacob as a concubine. Leah and Rachel's eagerness to bear children for Jacob is again emphasized when they argue over who shall use the aphrodisiac mandrakes found by Leah's son. In all, Leah and Rachel provide Jacob with 12 sons and one daughter who no one cares about, who will in turn father the 12 tribes, the people of Israel. Ruth's explicit link to Rachel and Leah occurs in the blessing of the townspeople as they witness Boaz's redemption of Ruth and of the land of Elimelech and Mahlon. May the Lord make the woman who is coming into your house like Rachel and Leah, both of whom built up the house of Israel. In the blessing, the townspeople add a specific reference to Judah, the founder of Boaz's tribe. May your house be like the house of Perez, whom Tamar bore to Judah. The story of Tamar and Judah is also a story of family continuity, achieved by determination of a woman. Tamar bears twins, Perez and Zerah, after she masquerades as a prostitute to seduce her father-in-law Judah, who has failed to fulfill his promise to give her his youngest son Shelah as a husband after his two older sons had died while married to her. The references in the book of Ruth to Rachel, Leah, and Tamar serve not only to welcome Ruth into the Judite community by linking her with the mothers of that community, they especially lead us to view Ruth in the mold of heroic women who ensured the preservation of the people of Israel. Thanks to Ruth, the family of Naomi, strangely, the text does not put it in terms of Elimelech or Mahlon, survives. Not strangely. The child born to Ruth and Boaz is a son born to Naomi, who will renew her life. For Naomi, Ruth is better than 7 sons, for she produces what Naomi's sons failed to, an heir. An heir implies inheritance. And in the Bible, that means land. And the end of the book of Ruth, at the end of the book of Ruth, the themes of land and family come together. Boaz reunites the family with its land by redeeming Elimelech's land and by marrying Ruth, the widow of Elimelech's son Mahlon. The story comes full circle. The family that left its land had no descendants and returns to its homeland and acquires an heir and patrimony. This would be uplifting even on the level of an individual family. But like the patriarchal stories, the books of Ruth speaks to the national level as well. This is no anonymous family that is restored. This is the family into which King David will be born. Just as Ruth's adoption of both Naomi's people and God raises their return to Bethlehem from the personal to the national, so the genealogies at the end of the book lift the story to the national level. One genealogy begins with Obed, son of Boaz and Ruth, and culminates 3 generations later in David. And the second goes back to Perez, son of Judah and Tamar, and leads to Salmon, father of Boaz, and after 10 generations also culminates in David. David, as Israel's greatest king, founded the Davidic dynasty, the one to which God promised an eternal kingdom. David represents both the united monarchy at its height and promise of its eternal existence. The covenant with David, like the covenant with Abraham, is an emblem of God's promise to Israel. The story of Ruth provides for David the same pattern that produced the patriarchal line and the line of Judah, namely the perpetuation of the family through the deeds of women, and thereby joins the covenant with David to the covenant with Abraham. The promise to Abraham of the progeny of the land is renewed in the promise to David of the dynasty and the kingdom. The theme of family continuity becomes the theme of national continuity. The book of Ruth is a bridge between the era of Israel as a family or tribe and Israel as a nation. Far from being peripheral to the main narrative sequence of the Bible, Ruth dramatizes its principal theme, the continuity of this people in their land. The point of this fast is for us to find favor in the sight of the Creator. When we decided collectively, individually, separately, and together that we were not going to serve at the behest of these foreign gods, just like Ruth was instructed to go back to her gods, specifically, not just back to her family, quote unquote, but back to her gods. We decided we were not going to serve at the behest of these foreign gods, and we declared we would not serve at the behest of these foreign gods. We even asked for restoration of the kingdom. We supported Saturn in its direct motion to do what Saturn is supposed to do as our quote unquote mother. We were observing this once in a planetary conjunction between Uranus and the North Node and Mars that happened in August of 2022. We were fasting at that time to take back the kingdom. And the Most High has looked on us and granted us our what we desire. However, what I noticed, and the reason why we need to fast, is that it has not been returned. There is I have been saying for months, year now at least, that this is not the way things are supposed to happen. Meaning, when you do a good thing's supposed to happen to you. When you make a sacrifice, a good things happen. And we're going to see in the book of Ruth how things are supposed to go. So the point of this fast is for not about food. Like me, I'm just going to do the regular. I'm going to eat between the time the sun comes up and the time the sun goes down. That's all I'm doing as far as food is concerned. I'm not doing anything else. It's a very, very long fast. This is combining our literally combining the two fasts that we normally do separately, which is the fast for the cross quarter holiday fast that we normally do at this time, and we're combining it with our Saturn retrograde fast, where Saturn comes back into direct motion. We're combining two fasts together, so this is going to be almost a whole entire season. August, September, October, November, almost all the way until Thanksgiving. This is going to be an extremely long fast. However, there's a lot of things going on politically and elsewhere and otherwise that we need extra help with. This whole season that's coming up is going to be a very difficult season of time to navigate through successfully. And so the point of this fast is that you want to listen to your spirit team. By now, you should have built up a strong enough relationship that whatever they say to do, you need to do it without question. If you don't feel this way about your spirit team, if you're not this cued in with your intuition, I don't know what to tell you, but that's what's going to be required. This fast is requiring you to do what your spirit team says to do, to listen very, very carefully and follow their instructions. That is what this fast is. I read you the whole story so you could get the idea. We're going to read the actual text from the Orthodox Study Bible, and I have some definitions we're going to go through, but I just want to pause here and say exactly what this fast is. We are fasting for favor in the sight of our Creator. We don't know any of these laws. We don't know any of these rules. We have no idea what's ahead of us at all whatsoever. I don't think anybody does, but I don't think people are thinking I should fast as a way to solve this problem. That is what we are saying. We are saying in order to try to figure out how to deal with this problem that's going on, we're going to fast. And we're going to ask our spirit team to be even more aware, even more careful, and we're going to ask one of our ancient grandmothers, Ruth, which I don't know why she's not in the book of remembrance of our ancient grandmothers, but I'm sure they'll come out with an edition now, the book of remembrance of the ancient grandmothers, Ruth edition, just because I'm bringing it up, because that's what they did with the Zeta Kettle Bob edition, if you didn't notice. Nobody was talking about Zeta Kettle Bob, and I started talking about her, and all of a sudden, the book of remembrance of our ancient grandmothers gets a Zeta Kettle Bob edition. Now, we need the book of remembrance of Ruth, okay? I mean, these people were just, oh my goodness. We need the Creator and our spirit team, our ancestors, our angels, our guides to tell us how to navigate through this next period of time successfully. We don't have a playbook for this. Me personally, I have done a lot of stuff. I have no intellectual answer for this. There's no intellectual answer for what needs to be done for me to be successful. I have come to that conclusion. There's nothing that I can do. There's nothing that anybody can tell me to do. I have to be instructed directly from the spirit realm, and I don't know what that looks like. I've never experienced that. Even if you have experienced that, have you? Are you sure about that? Because if you're 100% sure about that, don't fast. Don't fast with us. We don't need anybody fasting with us who thinks they have the entire spirit realm figured out and they already do everything that they get from. We don't need you. I'm sorry. We just don't. I'm tired of people knowing everything, absolutely everything about everything, but they can't really help anybody else figure it out. I'm exhausted. I'm not engaging in this stuff anymore. So let's read the book of Ruth. All right. So something I thought was interesting. This is from, like I said, the book of remembrance. The Orthodox Study Bible. So, major theme, redemption, a word that occurs 23 times. 23 times in the text. Boaz acts as a redeemer by buying back Naomi's land, marrying Ruth, a Moabitess, and fathering a son to keep the family line alive. Such a kinsman redeemer is symbolic of the mediating work of Christ. Ruth's position as a Gentile in the ancestry of David and thence of Christ signifies that all nations will be represented in the kingdom of God. Listen, this not about who is Hebrew, who is whatever you are. It's not about that. We're done with that. All of that's the old covenant that y'all keep trying to throw back in our faces, okay? We're done with that covenant. That covenant is over, okay? No matter how hard you want it to come back, no matter how many angry Hebrew Negroes is screaming on the street corner, that covenant is done. We are not getting that covenant back, okay? It doesn't mean that we don't have the rules, quote unquote, but that literal, physical, actual covenant is done. It's something I pulled up about that too. Hold on, let me see. Oh, maybe it's gone. Oh, maybe it wasn't me. I didn't pull it up. Okay, anyway, let me keep going. That old covenant is done. We are dealing with a new covenant, which is the New Testament covenant. This is why we have to have, quote unquote, Roman citizenship. We have to be under the Roman, quote unquote, citizenship. Because if we are not citizens of Rome, just like our brother Jesus was a Roman citizen or Paul was a Roman citizen, if we are not under that citizenship, then we will not enjoy any rights and privileges. And I don't care what anyone else is talking about, because nobody is going to actually tell you this. These people are getting their citizenship, their quote unquote Roman citizenship, and they're being baptized, they're being redeemed, and you're being left here on the ground by yourself. I am tired of our women going out here doing the things that make the most sense, following what makes the most sense, what other people are recommending, what other people are doing, and we have still not been redeemed. There's no excuse for this. Zero. And don't tell me that, oh, we've been redeemed, things are getting better. Look at what's going on with quote unquote black women and tell me we've been redeemed. Where you see it at? And this is not even just about black women, because this talk about all nations will be represented. None of the women in any nation has been redeemed yet. The women are not out here free and happy and celebrating. Not. And they're trying, I won't talk about Kamala, but I will say this. They're trying to make it seem like, oh, if we elect Kamala, we're going to be free and happy and celebrating, when she is nothing but a lawyer. And lawyers cannot be trusted. If you ever trust a lawyer, that is the last day that you will be happy. I'm sorry, all those people who love lawyers. No lawyer is trustworthy, because they all pledge allegiance to a foreign god. Okay? And so I can never trust someone who pledges allegiance to a foreign god. A lot of y'all pledge allegiance to foreign gods, truth be told. But that's an untrustworthy person who pledges allegiance to a foreign god, who is empowered by that foreign god. So let's go ahead with the story. Oh, something else too. The background here, as a Moabitess, Ruth was a descendant of Lot. Now, I railed and railed and railed against Lot. So the fact that a descendant of Lot has been redeemed and was used to bring about the bloodline of Christ, that is very, very significant, because I railed against those sons of Lot, the daughters of Lot, just crazy stuff they had going on. I railed against it. And so it's not lost on me that here we go having the bloodline of Lot is redeemed in this matter. Okay, twice the scripture does record that Moab, situated east of the Dead Sea, and Israel warred against each other. During a time of famine in Israel, Ruth and her Israelite family moved to Moab as a matter of survival. After the death of her husband, with the famine passed, she and Naomi returned to Israel, to the city of Bethlehem, later to become the city of David. All right, let's get into the story. In the days of Judges, there was a famine in the land, and a man went from Bethlehem to Judah to sojourn in the country of Moab, and his wife and his sons. The name of the man was Elimelech. The name of the wife was Naomi, and the names of his two sons were Mahlon and Chilion, Ephrates from Bethlehem and of Judah. So these were tribe of Ephraim, okay? And tribe of Ephraim, but from Judah. So probably mixed with Ephraimites and Judites, okay? And they went to the country of Moab and remained there. And then Elimelech, Naomi's husband, died, and she was left with her 2 sons. They took for themselves wives of the women of Moab. The name of one was Orpah, and the name of the other was Ruth. They dwelt there about 10 years. Then both Mahlon and Chilion died, and so the women survived. The woman, talking about Naomi, survived her 2 sons and her husband. Naomi returns to Judah with Ruth. Then she arose with her 2 daughters-in-law and returned to the country of Moab, for she had heard in the country of Moab that the Lord was watching over his people by giving them bread. Therefore, she and her 2 daughters-in-law left the place where she was and returned to the land of Judah. And Naomi had said to her 2 daughters-in-law, "Go, return each to her mother's house." Pause. Wait a minute. She told them go back to their mother's house, not to their father's house, to their mother's house. Now, I remember that. Let's look at that word mother. Here we go. This is from the Hebrew Bible. AME. That made me think of like the AME church. A primitive word. And if you look here under mother, it says Deborah's relationship to the people. So Deborah as the judge, her relationship as a mother to the people, the one who judged the people with a sword. This is who Naomi told Orpah and Ruth to return to. The mother that ruled by the sword. The mother who was the judge. The mother of their family who was the one who would weigh their hearts and judge them. Not just any mother, okay? Not just any mother. So that's important. All right, let's keep going. All right. So, may the Lord have mercy. We're on verse 8, the middle of verse 8. May the Lord have mercy on you as you have dealt with the dead and with me. The Lord grant that you may find rest, each in the house of her husband. Then she kissed them and lifted up their voices and wept. She said each in the house of their husband, so that they would find new husbands, because their husbands were now dead. Not only was her husband dead as Naomi, but their husbands were dead. All the men were gone. And they said to her, "We will return with you to your people." But Naomi said, "Turn back, my daughters. Why do you desire to go with me? Are there still sons in my womb, that they may be your husbands? Turn back, my daughters, for I am too old to have a husband. For I say, if I married and should bear a son, would you wait for them till they were grown? Would you restrain yourselves from having husbands? No, my daughters, for it grieves me very much for your sakes that the hand of the Lord has gone out from within me." Then they lifted up their voices and wept again and again wept. Orpah kissed her mother-in-law and returned to her people, but Ruth followed her. Now, Oprah, what does she always do? She'll cry with you, all of that, but she going back to her folks, man. She got the right name. She always going back with her folks, the people who made her who she is. That's where she's going back, the ones who judge her by the sword. That's who she going back to. Does she not do that? Are we not talking about the real Oprah? Look at what she did to Taraji. Is that not what she did through Naomi, i.e. Taraji, or Naomi, i.e. Monique, under the bus and went back to her folks? Is that not what she did? I don't know why nobody else could make this connection, but here we are again with me reading a simple Bible story and making connections that nobody else seems to be able to make. But anyway, let's continue on. And Naomi said to Ruth, verse 15, "Look, your sister-in-law has returned to her people and to her gods. Return after your sister-in-law, but return after your gods." See, that was the thing. It wasn't just that Naomi was telling them to go back to their people. When you marry an Israelite man, you become an Israelite. She was telling them, renounce your Israelite blessing, quote unquote, because they didn't seem like a blessing at the time, and go back to your Moabite blessing, your Lot blessing, your crazy house, crazy brain, dwelling in the caves blessing. That's what go back to your gods, your graven images, your household idols, all of that. Go back to your own customs. Go back to your own culture. And what did Oprah? What did Orpah do? All right, deuces. I'm going back to my own old culture and all my old ways. Yikes. Okay? Anyway, verse 16. But Ruth said, "Do not ask me to leave you or turn back from following you. For wherever you go, I will go. And wherever you lodge, I will lodge. Your people will be my people, and your God my God. And wherever you die, I will die, and there I will be buried. May the Lord cause this to happen to me, and more also, if anything but death parts you and me." She is literally cursing herself. I will die. If I do anything but follow you and do what you do, I should die right now. That's basically where we are. Like this, if we turn away from our spirit team, they may as well take us out right now, because we're not gonna make it. Verse 18. When Naomi saw that she was determined to go with her, she ended her conversation with her. Now the two of them went until they came to Bethlehem, and the whole city shouted because of them, "Is this Naomi?" But she said to them, "Do not call me Naomi, call me bitter, for the Almighty has dealt bitterly with me." All right, let's look at that word bitter. This is another word that I pulled up. In the Hebrew, it's Mara. Okay? And it means bitterness. And this is the only time that it's used. This word is used nowhere else. Bitterness. Bitterness is not really talked about too much in the Bible, which is interesting, okay? All right. I went out full, and the Lord has brought me home again empty. Why do you call me Naomi, since the Lord has humbled me, and the Almighty has afflicted me? So Naomi returned, and Ruth, the Moabite woman, returned with her. Her daughter-in-law, who returned from the country of Moab. Now they came to Bethlehem at the beginning of the barley harvest. Now, this is very important or very interesting because, let me see. Did I already pass it? 1 and 20. Okay, so when she says the Almighty has dealt very bitterly with me, she uses the term in the Hebrew, it's Shaddai. It's the female God. The female God has dealt bitterly with her. Shaddai. Shaddai. And it means Almighty, obviously, but they're talking about the feminine God. She is talking about the feminine, the divine feminine. This creatrix God has dealt bitterly with her. So by this point in the story, you know that this woman is a woman who is like probably some kind of a priestess of a divine feminine line, because she tells the girls, number one, she tells the girls to return to their mothers. Number two, she says that the feminine God is the one who dealt bitterly with her. Mother Gaia has dealt bitterly with her. This is, whoever they call the mother has dealt bitterly with her. That is who she is attributing this to, which is, another one of those interesting things. All right, let's see. Okay, so let's go on to chapter 2. There was a relative, Boaz favors Ruth, okay? There was a relative of Naomi's husband. Now, I'll just keep on. There was a relative of Naomi's husband, a man of great wealth of the family of Elimelech. His name was Boaz. So Ruth, the Moabite woman, said to Naomi, please let me go to the field and glean heads of grain after him in whose eyes I may find favor. And she said to her, go, daughter. Then she left and went and gleaned in the field after the reapers. And she happened to come to the part of the field belonging to Boaz, who was one of the family of Elimelech. Now behold, Boaz came from Bethlehem and said to the reapers, the Lord be with you. And they answered him, the Lord bless you. Then Boaz said to his servant who was in charge of the reapers, whose young woman is this? So the servant who was in charge of the reapers answered and said, it is a young Moabite woman who came back with Naomi from the country of Moab. And she said, let me glean and gather by handfuls after the reapers. So she came and continued from morning until evening, not stopping to rest in the field, not even a little. Let's pause right there. This woman, who they traveled from Moab to Bethlehem, which was probably a long trip. Then as soon as she gets into Bethlehem, she's like, I have to go with my youth, right? And provide for Naomi, who is my elder. Because I said I was saying I was going to take care of her. And so if we know anything about the Bible in the Old Testament, if you were a widow, you could go and glean off the fields. They would leave a little something for you, for the widows and the homeless and the hungry, so that everyone would eat, right? And so she did not do like some of the other women would do and prostitute herself for this. She went and she gathered it by her own hand, by her own hard work. She did not ask for no favor. She did not lose her exotic looks, her, whatever beauty or whatever to get anything. She went out there and she went to work. And this allowed Naomi not to have to go out there and get to work. Understand what I'm saying? If in those days, if you were an old woman and you had no heirs, you had to get out there in the fields and glean. And you would have to move very slowly and you wouldn't get a lot because you'd be very tired because of how hot it is. We're talking about right now, the middle of summer, going out and capturing what little barley that you can capture after the big boys have come through with their whatever to harvest the field. And something else I want to mention, barley is good to deal with charms, to deal with magic. We have the barley and the other stuff that deals with other stuff, but barley specifically in Nunu deals with charms. So this is good for dissolving charms, okay? So we know that because this is barley, and it's that there's no magic that's able to get through. You know what I mean? Like we know that there's automatically a protection from magic because barley is involved, right? All right, verse 8. Then Boaz said to Ruth, did you not hear, daughter? Do not glean in another field, nor go from here, but stay close by my young women. Let your eyes be on the field that my men reap, and follow after them. Behold, I have commanded the young men not to touch you. And when you are thirsty, go to the vessels and drink what the young men draw. So she fell on her face, bowed down to the ground, and said to him, why have I found such favor in your eyes, that you should take notice of me, since I am a stranger? Let me pause right there. She didn't know she was going to Boaz field. She just went to the whatever. She followed her spirit team to the field they told her to go to. That's what happened. And she just so happened to end up in Boaz field. This is why we need a spirit team. How will we know what field to go to that will give us this kind of outcome that she ends up being one of the in the bloodline of Jesus? No, we don't know. And therefore, we need some help getting into the right position. We're not in position for whatever needs to be done. We're clearly not in position. Also, I want to point out, all she did was go to the field. She did not fast. She did not pray for 40 days and 40 nights. She didn't cast any magic spells. All she did was go to work. She knew she needed to take care of this older woman. She didn't want her out there in the field, and she went to work. Have we not gone to work? Why have we not found favor the way that Ruth has? Look what favor she finds. Just listen. And Boaz, verse 11, and Boaz answered and said to her, it has been fully reported to me all you have done with your mother-in-law since the death of your husband, and how you have left your father and your mother and the land of your birth and come to a people whom you did not know yesterday or the day before. May the Lord repay your work, and may a full reward be given you by the Lord God of Israel, under whose wings you have come for refuge. She came to the most. She took Naomi's God as her God. She forsook her gods, her Moabite gods, for the Creator. The Creator began to bless her immediately. Immediately. It wasn't, I'm gonna give me wait till the sun gets in this position. We're gonna wait till the moon gets here. We're gonna wait till this happens. No. It was immediate. When they got back to Bethlehem, it was just the perfect time to go. Naomi, in her wisdom, would have known, okay, well, at least if I get back to Bethlehem, I could, I can glean off the fields. I'll be around my family. They'll look out for me, so on and so forth. That was her plan in her mind. Ruth coming along was not her plan. She didn't stop her, but it wasn't her plan. But Ruth must have had in her mind, well, at least I won't be leaving this woman by herself. She didn't know about their culture exactly, so she wasn't sure what to expect. Ruth knew nothing of what to expect, except that in general, Israelites allow you to what they called widowers to glean from the fields so that they don't starve. She knew that much. Okay, she probably knew about their culture, but she had never seen it up close. Verse 12, may the Lord repay your work, and may a full reward be given you by the Lord God of Israel, under whose wings you have come for refuge. Then she said, let me find favor in your sight, my Lord. And that word for Lord that she uses, it literally means master. It's Adon, A-W, all done, or shortened Adon. It literally means firm, strong Lord Master. It's really a term for being master, okay? For you have comforted me and have spoken to the heart of your maidservant. Behold, I will be like one of your bondswomen. Now, what is a bondswoman? A bondswoman is a slave. This woman was a free woman. She was not a slave. She did not come to Bethlehem as a slave. She came to Bethlehem as a free woman. And she told Boaz to treat her as a slave, because she had made herself a slave, a participant in the covenant with the Creator, the God of Israel, the God of Naomi. She put herself into a covenant with the God of Naomi. And so because she put herself in that covenant, she was indebted to this man. What did she say? Treat me as a slave. They must have treated their slaves pretty well. Everyone knows that slaves had right amongst the Israelites. It was common knowledge. And so she said she asked him to treat her as a slave, not elevate her. Don't put me on the top of the pyramid. Treat me like, someone who's supposed to be here. Treat me unlike anything other than what I deserve, which is the bottom of the barrel. Treat me like a slave. This is what she asked for. Verse 14, now Boaz said to her, it is already time to eat. Come here and eat of the bread, and dip your bread in the vinegar. So Ruth sat beside the reapers, and Boaz made a pile of grain for her, and she ate and was satisfied and kept some back. Now, She said, treat me like a slave. He said, come eat at my table. This is what I expect from the Creator. This stuff we got going on here, no. No, 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 no. There's no reason we should be telling, oh, I'm Creator, I'm indebted to you. Whatever you need me to do, I'll do it. Okay, well, go out here and burn yourself out for 3 or 4 more years. Give every single ounce of energy that you have to some stupid job or whatever else. And, I'll get back to you when I get ready. No, that's the Shaddai God that Naomi was dealing with. That Shaddai don't sound like somebody I want to be dealing with. Honestly, because she dealt with her bitterly. The only reason Naomi was shown favor is because of Ruth. If not for Ruth, Naomi would have been unredeemed too. She said she was too old for a husband. So she wasn't coming back to Bethlehem to get married. She said she was too old. She's too old to have sons. Her line was going to end with her. Shaddai was going to let Naomi's line end with her. Understand that. What kind of God is that? Who wants to deal with a God who operates like that? That's not right. That was not right. Okay. Verse 15, top of the page. And she rose up to glean, and Boaz commanded his young men, saying, let her glean even among the sheaves, and do not bring shame upon her. When you carry sheaves, carry them for her also. And when you throw them in piles, throw them for her also. And let her gather from what has piled up, and do not rebuke her. So she gleaned in the field until evening, and beat with a rod what she had gleaned. It was about an ephah of barley. So she got 1 ephah of barley gleaning, okay? Now, mind you, when you get an ephah of barley, not only can you use it to eat, you can use it to sell. So she had enough where they could possibly start to actually get some money, right? Verse 18, then she took it up and went into the city, and her mother-in-law saw what she had gleaned. So Ruth brought forth and gave to her what she had kept back after she had been satisfied. And her mother-in-law said to her, where have you gleaned today? And where did you work? Blessed is the one who took notice of you. So Ruth told her mother-in-law, when she says what she had held back, meaning like she had eaten, but she had a little bit left over, so she wrapped those leftovers up to bring back to Naomi, so Naomi could eat. So even though she didn't have to make sure Naomi could eat, because she knew she was going to be bringing back some barley so that she could eat, she still went out of her way to make sure this woman could eat. This woman who had nothing. They came to Bethlehem with nothing. And she still made sure that Naomi ate. I'm just saying, like, do you do that? Have you made sure your sister, your brother can eat? You've eaten? You've taken care of yourself? Are you checking on your brother and your sister? Did you think about them? No. Even your mother. This was not even her mother. This was her stepmother. Did you check on your mother? Did you check on your stepmother? If you have extra, have you done anything for them? Anything? All right. This makes me so angry. So Ruth told her mother-in-law where she had worked and said, the man name with whom I work today is Boaz. Then Naomi said to her daughter-in-law, Blessed is he of the Lord, who has not forsaken his kindness to the living and the dead. And Naomi said to her, that this man is a relation of ours, one of our close relatives. Ruth said to her mother-in-law, he also said to me, stay near my young men until they finish all my reaping. And Naomi said to Ruth, her daughter-in-law, it is good, my daughter, that you go out with his young women, and thus people will not meet you in another field. So she stayed close by the young women of Boaz to glean until the end of the barley and wheat harvest. And she dwelt with her mother-in-law. So she listened to what she said. Okay, we don't have any more words until the end. She listened to what she said, and she was like, okay, she said to stay with him. I'm going to go ahead and stay with him. Now, Did Ruth at this point know what the whole redemption process was? Doubtful. Naomi knew, though. She was not mistaken. She knew at this point what the plan was. She didn't know when they got to the city what the plan was. But once this happened, she knew what the plan was. She had it in her mind. She didn't want to share it with Ruth. Why? Because she didn't want it to be messed up. She knew there was a certain time that would be the best time to execute this plan. But in the meanwhile, let her go and get comfortable around those people and let them see what kind of person she is. Because Naomi also knew that these people didn't know Ruth. So in order to get to know them, you have to let them be around them. You got to spend time with them. My kids from the summer camp, I know them. I spent 6 weeks with them. So when they go into the classroom, some of them are coming to the school. When they go into the classroom, I already know them. So I already know what I can do to advocate for them before they even get into the door. This is what you have to build up a relationship. And that's what this is. They built up a relationship. Okay? Boaz pledges to redeem Ruth. Chapter 3. Then Naomi, in her mother-in-law, said to her, "Daughter, shall I not seek rest for you, so that it will be well with you? Now Boaz, whose young woman you were with, is he not our relative? In fact, he is winnowing barley tonight at the threshing floor. Therefore, wash and anoint yourself, put on your best garment, and go up to the threshing floor. But do not make yourself known to the man until he has finished drinking and eating. Then, when he lies down, take notice of the place where he lies. Then you shall go in, uncover his feet, and lie down. And he will tell you what you should do." And Ruth said to her, "I will do everything you say." Listen, women weren't allowed on the threshing floor. The women who came on the threshing floor were prostitutes, because they didn't want to do the hard work of gleaning in the field and working. They would go onto the threshing floor, sell some sex, and get some barley or whatever it was that they were collecting at the time. The threshing floor was a very sacred place. It wasn't just like a place you showed up. Okay? You had to be invited there. They used this space for their multi-purpose things. If they had church events they needed big spaces for, if they had family things, all kinds of stuff. The threshing floor was a very sacred space. And so for Naomi to tell Ruth to do this, knowing that there was a night of the thrashing, she again had this plan in her mind. She already knew what she was going to tell her to do. And as we read in the first story, that whole thing of uncovering his feet, when we'll get to this part of the story, but oh good Lord. When he notices that she is there, he covers her with his robe in an espousal way, like he was going to wed her. So that's what that imagery is like. So let's keep going. All right, and Ruth said to her, "What? I will do everything you say." That's what we need to do. I will do everything you say to our spirit team. Whatever it is, I will do everything you say. However crazy it seems, I will do everything you say. Not everything that everyone says. Your spirit team, the one who is giving you the spiritual advice, because that's what Naomi was. It was like she was her daughter-in-law, but she was like her godmother. She was literally saying, "I have to protect you. This is how I'm going to protect you, because you were married to my son and my son died, and now you are my daughter." Okay? Because she keeps calling her daughter, not daughter-in-law. She calls her daughter. All right? Verse 6. So she went down to the threshing floor and did according to all her mother-in-law instructed her. Boaz ate, and his heart was cheerful, and he went to lie down at the end of the heap of grain. And she came softly and uncovered his feet. Now it happened at midnight that the man was startled and disturbed, for there was a woman lying at his feet. Remember, I said women weren't allowed in there. The only women who were in there was prostitutes. So maybe he thought, man, did I take home one of these little prostitutes? Man, I wasn't supposed to do that. And he said, who are you? So she answered, I am Ruth, your maidservant. Take your maidservant under your wing, for you are a close relative. Then Boaz said, blessed are you of the Lord God, daughter, for you have shown more kindness at the end than at the beginning, in that you did not go after young men, whether rich or poor. So she's out there with his servants, his men, this whole time that the barley is being, this whole harvest. She never tried to talk to none of them. They didn't talk to her either because they were instructed not to, but they never tried to pick her up. They never anything. She must have been quite beautiful. And he said, you're kinder in the end than the beginning. She was quite kind in the beginning. So this is even kinder that she would look to him to replace her husband as opposed to looking to one of these younger men who could also, who she could just go on to start her life over. It was not required that she be redeemed. This redeeming was optional. Wasn't required. She could have got to Bethlehem, met somebody else, and went about her life. It was not required that this bloodline be preserved. It was not required that she preserve the bloodline of her husband. She loved her husband so much that she wanted to make sure his bloodline is preserved. Come on, man. Come on. Verse 11. And now, daughter, do not fear. I will do for you all you request. For the whole tribe of my people knows that you are a virtuous woman. And you know what else? He sounds like a sugar daddy. Like, he's older and more seasoned and well put together. And he's going to take this girl and do right by her. I mean, that's ultimately you hope a sugar daddy would do that. However, we know a lot of them don't. But ideally, this is what they would be doing. They would be taking care of these kind of women. But a lot of them, they go for the two young women, right? Okay. Verse 12. Now, it is true that I am a close relative. However, there's a relative closer than I. He didn't even have to tell her that. Imagine knowing that this girl is coming after you and still saying, you know what? I know that there's someone closer. I'm not going to do the wrong thing. I'm going to stay in honor. He stayed in honor during this whole scenario. Verse 13, stay here for the night. And in the morning, if he performs the duty of kinsman for you, we will let him do it. But if he does not wish to perform the duty for you, then as the Lord lives, I will perform the duty for you. Lie down until morning. 14. So she lay at his feet until morning, and she rose before anyone could recognize another. Then Boaz said, do not let it be known that a woman was do not let it be known that a woman came to the threshing floor, because the women who came to the threshing floor was prostitutes, okay? 15. And he said to her, bring the apron that is around you. And she held it, and he measured 6 ephahs of barley and laid it on her. Then she went into the city. So he did not even send her home empty-handed. He didn't try to have sex with her. That's the point he was making about that. And he didn't send her home empty-handed. I mean, why are we being sent home empty-handed? Why are we still suffering? Why are we still in need of any kind whatsoever? She was not in need for any amount of time. As soon as she got there, she went to just the right field. She ran to just the right person. He took favor with her. She sat at his table every day and ate. She never knew hardship. Why is it that we have to go through the hardship that even a Moabite didn't have to go through? And what did Naomi do? As soon as she got back, she was taken care of. Now, was she on easy street? I wouldn't say that, but she was taken care of. And then as soon as she knew that Ruth went to Boaz, she had the plan in her mind. She knew what to wait for. She knew. So she was taken care of. So why are we not getting Naomi treatment or Ruth treatment? We have returned to the city of our ancestors, i.e. coming back into the true religion, the true faith, and devoted ourselves to the Creator. Why are we not receiving this treatment? I speak for myself. Why am I not receiving this treatment? How am I that different from Ruth that I am not receiving the treatment of Ruth? How am I'm not like Orpah. I didn't say, oh, let me go back and worship my gods. Forget y'all God that I done worship for 10 years. Let me go back to my God. I didn't do that. You didn't do that. So therefore, what is going on here? If we are daughters of Zion, we should be treated like Ruth. We should be treated like Naomi. If you're older, you shouldn't be out working. It's the young ones who have to go and do the gleaning from the field with help, who are going to receive the inheritance. Let's keep going. Verse 16. So when she came to her mother-in-law, she said, "Is that you, my daughter?" Then Ruth told her all the man had done for her. And she said to her, "He gave me these 6 ephahs of barley, for he said to me, 'Do not go empty-handed to your mother-in-law.'" Pause. Boaz knew the mother-in-law set this up. He knew it immediately as the situation was unfolding, he realized who was masterminding this whole thing. Ruth didn't know. Boaz knew, and Naomi knew. They know how these things work. Ruth didn't know. She was just going along with what she was told. Then she said, 18, "Sit still, daughter, until you know how the matter will turn out. For the man will not rest until he has concluded the matter today," which is the truth. Verse 4. Chapter 4. Boaz marries Ruth. Boaz went up to the gate and sat there, and behold, the close relative of whom Boaz had spoken was passing. So Boaz said to him, "Come aside, sit down here." So he came aside and sat down. And Boaz took 10 men of the elders of the city and said, "Sit down here." So they all sat down. So Boaz went to handle that thing as soon as the sun came up. He went looking for the man who was a closer relative as soon as the sun came up. He did not wait. Okay? Then Boaz said to the relative, "As to the field which was our brother Elimelech's, which was given to Naomi, now returning from the land of Moab, I said I would inform you, saying, 'Buy it back in the presence of the inhabitants of the elders of my people. If you will redeem it, redeem it. But if you will not redeem it, then tell me, that I may know, for there is no one but you to redeem it, and I am next after you.' And he said, 'I am here, I will redeem it.' Then Boaz said, 'On the day that you buy the field from the hand of Naomi, and from Ruth, the Moabite woman, the wife of the deceased, you must take her as well, so as to raise up the name of the dead through his inheritance.' And the close relative said, 'I cannot redeem it for myself, lest I ruin my own inheritance. You redeem my right of redemption for yourself, for I cannot redeem it.'" That term ruin, it means to destroy, corrupt, go to ruin, or decay. Literally, by marrying Ruth, he believed he was going to destroy his own inheritance. Because Ruth was a Moabite. Like, listen, the Moabites they're not good people in general. Like, they're not. In general, look at Lot, okay? He thought, man, Lot almost destroyed all of our people. So, no, I'm not going to take no risk with no Lot. No kin of Lot. I wouldn't. That woman is going to ruin my inheritance. And that's the reason why he rejected her. Because he was worried she was going to ruin his own inheritance. Which the inheritance of the man came through the marriage of a woman. That's why a woman has to take on a man's name. Because that's how the man gets the inheritance. By having the woman have his name. Because if the woman doesn't have his name, he has no claim to the inheritance. So that's what the whole taking of the name from the man and all of that is about, okay? Verse 7. Now this was a legal custom in former times of Israel concerning redemption. And for a bargain, to confirm every word, a man took off his sandal and gave it to his neighbor, who redeemed his right. And this was testimony in Israel. And the close relative said to Boaz, "Buy my right of redemption for yourself." So he took off his sandal and gave it to him. And Boaz said to the elders and all the people, "You are witnesses today that I have brought all that is Elimelech's and all that was Chilion's and Mahlon's from the hand of Naomi. Moreover, I bought for myself to be my wife, Ruth, the Moabite woman, the wife of Mahlon, to raise up the name of the dead through his inheritance, so that the name of the dead may not be cut off from among his brethren and from the tribe of his people. You are witnesses today." And all the people who were at the gate said, "We are witnesses." They were apostles. They had the testimony, okay? And the elder said, "May the Lord make the woman who is coming to your house like Rachel and Leah, who together built the house of Israel and wrought mightily in Ephrath. She will have a name in Bethlehem. And out of the seed which the Lord will give you from this young woman, may your house be like the house of Perez, whom Tamar bore to Judah." And also look at the age difference between Tamar and Judah too. So this was talking, this whole sentence got a lot of different stuff going on. We're talking about age differences. It's like, he's saying, will Boaz love, Leah like Jacob loved Rachel and Leah? And also, she's been as cunning as Rachel and Leah and Tamar too, as we've said in the article. All right, verse 13. So Boaz took Ruth, and she became his wife. And when he went into her, the Lord gave her conception, and she bore a son. Then the women said to Naomi, "Blessed be the Lord, who has not suffered a redeemer to fail you this day, even to make your name famous in Israel. And he will be to you a restorer of life and a nourisher of your old age. For your daughter-in-law, who loves you, who is better to you than 7 sons, has borne him." Then Naomi took the child and laid him on her bosom and became a nurse for him. And the neighbors themselves gave him a name, saying, "A son is born to Naomi." And they called his name Obed. And that word Obed means serving or to act a part of. He was a part of Naomi, right? This is the father of Jesse, the father of David. Now the genealogy. Now this is the genealogy of Perez. Perez begot Hezron. Hezron begot Ram. Ram begot Amminadab. Amminadab begat Nahshon. Nahshon begat Salmon. Salmon begat Boaz. Boaz begat Obed. Obed begat Jesse. And Jesse begat David. So, I think there was a little bit more, but I didn't get the rest of it. So, literally, you have Obed being called the son born to Naomi. Now, listen. Or understand this, right? Sarah had a son in her old age, right? Who Isaac, who was given the blessing. Okay? The woman always decided who was going to get the blessing. In the case of Naomi, there was no son on which to confer the blessing. Now she had a daughter. So what did she decide to do with the daughter? With the daughter-in-law, not even a real daughter, with her daughter-in-law, she conferred the blessing onto the daughter-in-law and helped her navigate this very, very, very difficult situation, so that at the end of the scenario, she ends up in the best position possible. She ends up with a son. She ends up with an inheritance. She ends up with a husband. She ends up with lots of wealth, because this man was wealthy. It comes from a wealthy family. So she came into the city with nothing, and she still left out with everything, more than any other person. She was a good person. She did good by people. She didn't do the wrong thing. She took care of her mother-in-law, and people respected that she was handling her responsibilities, and therefore she was blessed. And in a purpose, the presence of her being blessed, Ruth, Naomi was blessed. This is what I expect from the Creator to do for us. And the fact that it has not been happening like this is a big blessing. This is a blessing out loud. The entire town of Bethlehem knew about Ruth, okay? Everybody knew about Ruth. You can't tell me they didn't. She was a Moabite claiming to be an Israelite. Everyone knew about her. We are well known amongst the celestial kingdom. Everyone knows about us. Why are we not receiving at least the treatment that Ruth got? At least let us glean from the fields. We can't even glean from the fields. Whatever we glean from the fields is taken from us. It's unacceptable. And so we need a fast to correct it. We need to get into the correct order so that our spirit team can guide us, just like Naomi guided Ruth. We need our spirit team to guide us. And then, just like the Boaz showed favor to Ruth, we need the Creator, our Father, great, Uranus in that capacity to show favor to us. Everything that Boaz did has Uranus written all over it. Shocking, surprising. I bet he had really strong Uranus placements. That's what we need. It's like, oh, was he going to, did you think he was going to do that? No, I didn't think he was going to do that. The great benefic father, Uranus. That's what we need. And Uranus is in a position to do it. And so this fast is again about Uranus. Just like in 2022, when we asked to take back the kingdom, now we're asking to be restored. It's only right that we find favor in the sight of the Creator. We have done everything to take care of our mothers, our ancient mothers, our ancestors, our spirit team, our guides. We have reached out. I have reached out personally and burned more ancestor money than I can count, and done more things that I have no idea what they were for, helped more spirits transition and given them happy endings than I can even count. Now, let me find favor in the sight of the Creator, in the sight of great benefic Uranus. Let us find favor. And so we are fasting for favor. I don't know who has this favor right now, who is being shown all this mercy and all of that, but it should be us. We deserve it, and we're demanding it. And so that's what this fast is about. Yes, it is a long fast, but like I said, I'm just going to be fasting from sundown to sunup. That's it. And listening to my spirit team and letting them tell me what to do. I'm going to light a candle at the start of the fast. We're starting with the Great Cross Quarter Holiday. We know that the Creatrix, whatever her role in this, is to have us continue to be bitter, because if we're bitter, it serves the purpose of her sons getting some kind of, blessing or something. And so we need her to step aside for a minute and let our Father do what needs to be done to show us the favor that we deserve. Not that we disrespect the Creatrix and whatever her role may be, because the Lord our God is one, Mother and Father is one. However, I can clearly see from this story that if not Ruth had been who she was and determined that she was not going to leave her mother and leave her the God of her mother, the God of her mother-in-law's people, not her mother's God, but the God of the mother-in-law's people, then we would not be here talking about Roman citizenship, Roman Christian citizenship. We would have no Christ of which to speak of. This is how critical this point is in our own development. We need this in order to make sure we can fulfill the purpose that we have been sent here for. If you're going to show me favor, show me favor. If you're going to not show me favor, do it. I need to know which way it is. This is what we're asking. So I know this was a long video. I hope it makes sense to people. I'm still really sick, so it was really hard to get this out, but it needed to be said and it needed to be put into the ley line. So shalom everyone, and we'll see you in the next video.